Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Aaron for another episode of the Pixar Retrospective. And this week we are talking Finding Dory, the 2016 film directed by Andrew Stanton, the 17th Pixar film to be released. We are absolutely flying through. We are past the halfway stage now, and I'm excited to talk about this film. But first of all, Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Yeah, not too bad.
Excellent. I mean, we had you on for not just Finding Nemo, but we did Nemo together. We're now doing Dory together. Unlike that film, we didn't have to wait 13 years, was it, for a
Mm.
sequel? And set 1 year between in canon. I guess technically, let us doing Nemo in 2025 and this in 2026. Different times, different places, but it is going to be an interesting one. And where we're going to go into this, because we've spoken a little bit about how long maybe this episode is going to run today. I'm jumping in the quickest time ever. IMDb plot synopsis. Friendly but forgettable Blue Tang Dory begins a search for her long lost parents, and everyone learns a few things about the real meaning of family along the way. That's a weird synopsis because it's the whole everyone learns a few things. I know that sounds like something a teacher would say.
Yeah, I suppose they could have gone for like a location thing in there, or like been a bit more specific. But at the same time, if you do, then you get into spoiler territory. I don't know. That is a really vague one.
It's weird. It's just all terminology is weird. Weird thing to
Yeah.
criticize the synopsis, but we do. What I might do,
Mm.
some behind the scenes saying out loud, because we started using the letterbox ones for the Christmas series. The
Yeah.
letterbox synopsis are 3 paragraphs long every time. I was like, this is
Mm.
outrageous. This has to stop. IMDb obviously has a 1-2 liner.
Mm.
I might have to start taking it off the streaming services they use, hoping it's just a bit simpler.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
said
That
that without
might.
ever having looked at what a streaming service synopsis is. But you'd think the Disney Plus one would be something really simple, like Dory goes look for her family, not
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
But
That makes more sense.
yeah, I mean, let's talk this film a little bit. So
Mm.
this came out in the summer of 2016,
Hmm.
and I remember quite vividly this film's release. But before I get into my memories of it, I want to kind of lean towards yours.
Mm.
Did you see it at the time? I know Nemo was one of your first like cinema films.
Mm.
What was it like in the lead up to Dory, or were you excited, or did you just catch it? Like, because it's a film I've never really spoken to anybody about.
Mm. Well, I did go to the cinema to see this back in 2016. Because my channel only started in 2015. This is like I've got a very vivid memory of this being one of the first films I fully covered on my channel. But yeah, I did go to the cinema to see this. As like you said, I think Finding Nemo, I'm pretty sure was the very first film I ever saw in the cinema. And when I heard that they were announcing this one, I think initially was like, I'm not sure if that's going to work, especially considering how much time had passed. But then I think I started seeing the pretty decent reviews coming out, especially from like other people on YouTube, like Chris Stuckman and that, actually giving it really positive reviews. And I was like, oh, okay, I might actually give this a go. And then a friend of mine who's also into Disney thought, oh yeah, let's go to this. So we went and saw it, and I was pleasantly surprised. And I said to you before we started recording, this is the first time I've actually seen it since seeing it in the cinema 10 years ago, and I was pleasantly surprised to say that like it actually is still it's better than I remember it being, and I liked it beforehand, but this just kind of solidified the fact that like, oh, I thought this was like a low tier, mid tier Pixar film, but actually on rewatch, I'm like, oh, this is actually better than I remember it being.
Yeah, that I kind of agree with the ending there. That I've had that with Monsters University recently, where
Mm.
I saw it once. I didn't have maybe not. I'm not saying I didn't have the fondest of memories. I didn't care, and I
Yeah.
rewatched it for obviously this the first time, and I was like, oh, that was better than I thought, and
Mm.
probably had better than how people discuss it. And I think Finding Dory with this for me, I didn't see this at the cinema.
Mm.
If memory serves me correct, both my sisters went together and didn't invite me. I don't normally care about stuff like that, but that's made me think out loud. I definitely didn't see that with them.
Mm.
Um, like you, our channel was 2015. I definitely didn't review it as part of this. I think I saw this when
Mm.
it came out on Blu-ray, like the end of the year
Yeah.
or whenever that was. I mean, 2016 was like I was at uni, so I was
Mm.
watching a lot more film stuff. I was still working. and I just had no. I remember this being huge. I remember this being everywhere, marketing, advertising, a little bit like the Toy Story 3 effect, but maybe a few years later, like everyone our age from our generation went and saw it, posted they were watching it. I'm going to make a future comparison to The Incredibles 2. Incredibles 2 felt like the main event of that sort of. There's always been Toy Story sequels. Now we've gone to visit Nemo again. We've gone to visit the monsters again. We're going to visit Incredible. It was like that early Pixar. Who can we mine sequels and prequels from? Unlike Bugs Life. Hashtag a Bugs Life. So when I watched it, I'll be totally honest with you, I didn't care for this film. I was very neutral on it. I don't remember disliking it. I don't remember liking it. I think it was one of them where it was like, it's happened as it existed. I've moved on.
Yeah.
Weirdly to that, I have this era now. This sounds really weird. I always take a week off in July and a week, obviously December, and you probably did this. You're cramming in, you're watching films.
Yeah.
You're cramming stuff in to get in the year lists. The July one's weird because I always tend to take a week off. Like I tend to intentionally buy myself a big Lego set, do a week off. And when I'm building it, I'll have films on to catch up with like the year so far. And Dory is like the epitome of this would have been one of those. But
yeah,
I've got no recollection of how when I watched it at home. Obviously, I didn't do Legos back then, if I'm honest. I got back into that the year after. So I was quite neutral and looking at the schedule, doing the series. It's the mid-tens are a really weird vibe for me where you got Inside Out, which stands out beautifully, but the sort of films preceding and following it are a bit, for me, bit in that everything's a sequel at the moment. Not in a horrible way. Like, I know Good Dinosaur's original. I know Inside Out is original. Coco's original, but you kind of got lurking around them. Toy Story 4, Incredibles 2, Cars 3, Finding Dory, Monsters Uni. It's like Pixar find their footing again without talking too far into the future. But this is that weird corporate stage where you can tell Disney are pushing to revisit these. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I was also thinking about this as we were talking about like just that year as a whole, is that I think not that anyone looks like unfondly back on this, but I think the reason Finding Dory doesn't get remembered as much as say the original is maybe because 2016 was such a rammed year for film as a whole, and I think especially when it comes to Disney properties, the one thing people mostly remember from this year is more Zootropolis than this, because that had more of the impact. At least in like longevity terms, like the years since 2016, well, more people talk about and still remember Zootropolis fondly, and Finding Dory, unfortunately, because of that, and then also other films like Deadpool, Rogue One, Suicide Squad, Civil War coming out that same year, Finding Dory just kind of accidentally got pushed to the back, which is a shame because it is a good film. But unfortunately, like you said, it ends up becoming in that pile where people just kind of feel like they don't need to go out and watch it immediately. They kind of catch up on it later because there was so much coming out in 2016.
I think it's like that pre-COVID boom, right? Where I'm not saying COVID's good at all, but 2019, when we did Toy Story 4 video, but I'm pretty sure 2019, 10 films grossed $1 billion has never been done since. Probably will never be done since. And I'm pretty sure like 7 or 8 of them are Disney. I could be wrong, but it feels like this is when Disney's coming into like monopoly prime, where every Disney film's coming out is going to get $1 billion because it's a Disney film, because it's an IP. And obviously COVID's changed to cinema, and there's going to still be changes to cinema that follow through it. But Dory's, when it says Zootropolis, that's had its sequel only a year ago. Not too dissimilar a gap to Nemo and Dory, but the sequel's going to made like 1.9 billion. And you mentioned longevity, that sort of proves that, whereas there was another Nemo film, I don't know who you'd be finding for this time round, but I couldn't see the third one being as big because I don't think the second one's got that. And I'm going to go so far to say, for futuristic prediction, I don't think The Incredibles 3 will be big as Incredibles 2, because I think, again, that middle one, I'm not saying it's turned people off, but it's very much that, whereas when Inside Out comes out, the third one, everyone's going to go and see it. When A Bug's Life 2 comes out, everyone's going to go and see it, right? Not just me talking to the dozens of us. But kind of, which is interesting to talk about with this, I can't remember the time I had you on one of these episodes. I don't think I've spoke to you about the Circle 7 drama with Disney. And we'll go into some behind the scenes with this. So, as part of Disney Animation, before they purchased Pixar, Circle 7 were the studio that very much were doing stuff like Lion King 1.5, Little Mermaid 2, the direct-to-video sequels. So, pre-2006 acquisition, Disney have fallen out big time with Pixar. They're not renewing at that point in time the contract. Steve Jobs is arguing venomously with is it Eisner the CEO or Eisner preceded? Essentially, it's whoever preceded Bob Iger. I can't remember his name. I don't want to get it wrong.
I think it is Eisner because I always get confused with that as well, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. So when they'd fallen out, the contracts with Pixar stated, although Pixar had made films, created these characters, worlds, environments, Disney owned the characters, the rights, and everything to do with them for sequels. So this is the third video, I think in the last 5 or 6, where in 2005 it pops up that Circle 7 had been given the green light by Disney to start working on a sequel to Finding Nemo. Now, if you're curious about what the other 2 ones were, they had 2 concepts for Toy Story 3. One of them wasn't that bad, but it was not Toy Story 3. And the second was Monsters University, where the original concept was a Circle 7 concept was a sequel, them going into the humour world to get Boo. Turns out that Circle 7 were also doing a Finding Nemo sequel, and clearly this didn't get made because Disney would buy Pixar in 2006. Every single one of those Circle 7 sequels would get axed on the spot, and Pixar would be brought in from a creative perspective, or at least they put it in the grave long enough for them to reopen it when they want to. The concept for the original sequel was it would come out that Nemo had a long-lost twin brother, and they would have to go and search for Marlin, who is lost. Can I just grab your initial thoughts on that? Because I've got some really strong ones.
I mean, my initial thought is that sounds like the most generic sequel idea, full stop. Like, don't get me wrong, I do like some of those straight-to-DVD, straight-to-video sequels that were made in, like, the 90s and 2000s, but that does seem a bit bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, what I can't wrap my head around, and I don't want to give it too much thought because it never got made, but Nemo having a long-lost twin, how do you get a long-lost twin when your entire, I don't know what you call the spawn was eaten and killed by a barracuda?
Yeah, that was such a massive thing in the first one.
And Marvin going missing, I mean, I wouldn't mind that because it means we get less of him, but
yeah,
I'm at this point with the Circle 7 stories where were they actually hiring writers, or was it like pre-AI, get a generic sequel in, scare Pixar into trying to like do something with us? Because good heavens, it's a good thing that wasn't what the film ended up being. And if anyone's curious, they didn't jump in to make the sequel. Actually, there was quite a long time before this ever got announced. So if anyone's curious, and I didn't even know about this, I do remember Nemo had a 3D re-release during the old 3D re-release days where every great animated film got a re-release that made about 100 million. I get why. Easy money. And Disney had started working on the 3D conversion, Andrew Stanton, the director, and this was for the 10th anniversary re-release. So the re-release was 2013, but this would have been like 2011, 2012 time. And Andrew Stanton essentially began figuring out ideas, I guess, spending time again, right? Probably with the original files, the engine. I don't know how you do 3D conversion. I don't work in post-production, specifically 3D, which has already died out. But I'd imagine animated stuff, it's probably a core concept of like layering within 3D settings on the files and whatnot. Weird to explain, but this is where his sequel ideas started forming. That he'd started to think, could we do more? What could I do? Is there a story? So, and I don't mind that. It feels a bit more natural, right? Disney didn't just jump out and say, right, Finding Nemo 2, 2016, go make it now. It felt like the offer was probably always there on the table. Probably on the table in the context of they probably bring it up every week. Have you got anything for Nemo 2 yet? And eventually the idea came for Andrew Stanton. It would be officially announced in 2012 with Andrew Stanton returning. Ellen DeGeneres was then confirmed in 2013, and it was all announced on the Ellen Show for kids today. That was a TV show that we can celebrate is no longer a TV show. A good time. Thank you so much. I forgot her name.
Dakota
Dakota
Johnson.
Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah, Dakota Johnson, who ended Ellen. What a fantastic. That was like, not to go on a side tangent. There's been wild times in the history of social media, but the old school live broadcasts, which unravels someone's entire career, very few and far between, done so eloquently. And the fact she only went on the show to bring it up, I respect it. Big time.
Love it.
Different conversation. But Ellen would return, as would Albert Brooks, both announced from the get-go. It was originally dated November 2015. That got pushed back to summer 2016 due to the Good Dinosaur delays. I'm going to add that surprised me a bit because Finding Dory absolutely, I don't want to say stinks of a summer blockbuster. That sounds completely the wrong word, but this is a summer it was a huge summer blockbuster. Everyone, I mean, you mentioned Civil War, that was April. This came out, I'm pretty sure, in July or August. Rogue One was December. Jungle Book, I think, was like March from memory. Suicide Squad was August. Like, this was like the huge summer film for kids to go to the cinema to see. I think that the 2015 release date would have been terrible. It still would have made money, though.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And to be honest, I can, even though, again, Pixar once again knock it out of the park with the animation in this one and everything's really detailed, if they'd pushed it back, I just realised I'm contradicting myself now because they moved.
No, it's fine. Say it.
Basically, I was going to say that, like, obviously the one thing that everyone talked about with Good Dinosaur is the fact that the backgrounds look so photorealistic, yet the characters. So maybe they rejigged it to work more on that because it's more detailed. I don't know. It's just the first thing that came to mind, but then I realised Dory's the one that's been pushed, not.
Well, Good Dinosaur was pushed from 2014 to 15 because they were just behind on all of it. So it was that we're pushing this up, so Dory has to then sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't even got to Cars 3 yet. That'll be next week, but I didn't realise that Cars 3 and Coco came out the same year. So I'm wondering if the knock-on effect of Good Dinosaur was actually 3 or 4 Pixars in a row. Because Cars 3, I think, did it come out summer 2017? And then Coco was like October?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe spring, I remember the trailer. All I remember is the trailer. I know it was summer because I was at the F1. Different conversation. Lightning McQueen was there. Weird moment. But we've got to drop something else behind the scenes. I was trying to figure out where to put this. So, are you aware of the documentary Blackfish?
Yes, I've seen it, and it's a brilliant documentary.
Okay. I've not seen it, but I'm fully aware of it, the circumstances around it, particularly with SeaWorld, how they, quote-unquote, look after whales and other animals. Quote-unquote, they definitely do not look after them. And that came out and had a massive impact on this production, which is really interesting to talk about, where I will praise the studio at times where I don't. Me and you spoke from memory on Nemo about the aftermath of the film where kids and families were buying clownfish. There was loads of like not hazardous issues, but they weren't acclimatized for certain places, and people wanted. I mean, I remember as a kid, didn't obviously have one, but you'd go into a shop and you'd see the Nemo fish, and that was the big thing. And leading into this and during the production, obviously Blackfish came out. It was huge. Pixar responded with Disney. They would edit a couple of things in this film. I wouldn't say they were the hardest. It's not like a core story point, but if anyone was curious, which I think I will testify that you did the right thing in doing so. The location was changed from being a water park to being a marine biology institute. And the ending of the film was changed where it gave the fish the option to leave at the end rather than to stay. Two, I would say, small changes, but small changes come from, I feel, a point of principle, because I'm not going to sit there and yearn and say, what if this? I don't care. It does feel like a water park, and I'm not criticizing that it feels like it, because you can't just click your fingers and reanimate an entire film. But
Yeah.
I would say that switching it to Marine Biologist Institute is fine.
Yeah.
It works, even though it comes across like a water park at times.
Mm.
It's not like there's slides. It's not like there's the usual stuff. It
Mm.
actually feels like now I know this is why that happened. It's why it
Mm.
didn't feel like as much of a research place as I thought it might. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. And to be honest, in hindsight, now that you mention that, it does feel a bit like there are elements here and there, like the gift shop, the people wandering around, and the whole touristy element do still feel like the park. But to be honest, it's a I say a blink and you'll miss it thing. It's something it's a very easy give and take. Like
Yeah.
it could work for either.
Yeah, and there would be, if they hadn't have done that, if it had been a water park, that there would have actually had a lot of, this isn't good. Because they still promote the film with the logic, please don't buy these fish, you can't get
Yeah.
these fish, they're not for households.
Yeah.
And I just think, so that again, it's very quick to jump on attack studios, and I've done it a lot, and I will continue to do it at times. But you've got to sort of justify praising them when you need to.
Yeah.
And this was one of those that it doesn't matter the animators hadn't thought about it from day one. They saw something that impacted the production and they made adequate changes to it. That should be praised, not when they make other changes because the studio exec says, that doesn't align with certain things.
Yeah.
And even the animation side of things, there's not as many new things to talk about. We seem to have a research section every week. This time, the Pixar animators were sent to Canada to go to the Vancouver aquarium, and then they were also sent to a couple of aquariums throughout California. Now, I've not been to an aquarium in California. I did go in Chicago to the Chicago Aquarium, which was one of the coolest places I've ever been to. That's the one that had the viral penguins during COVID. If anyone remembers a video of penguins walking around like an aquarium, that was the Chicago one. And like you, no doubt we had many school trips to National Sea Life, somewhere of the many regions they are here in the UK.
Yeah, especially for me, the one in Hastings that is not even a full aquarium anymore. It's just like a half-assed attempt at one now. I went in there last year or the year before, and I'm like, what happened to this place?
We've got the Birmingham one not far from us, and it's right by the, I still call it the NIA, Utilita Arena, whatever the one in Central is.
Yeah.
And I've not been there for years. I've always been half curious, like, would I go? I know there's a London one right in Central. I'm like, would I go? And then you see the London queues, like, no, thank you. But I would like to go to them, but I did like that Chicago one. I think because it sort of peaked there and then.
Yeah.
And it was all downhill coming thereafter. Even the building, it was like National History Museum in like New York or something, not the museum. But yeah, and another bit of animation development, Pixar's software engine, RenderMan. Obviously, I'm not an animator, so I've never worked with it. But they re-engineered the entire. You can't call it. You can't re-engineer an engine, but they re-engineered the software package, the software device.
Yeah,
it was the most changes they've made since it launched in '89. What I found out, which blew my mind, was that they used Pixar Man on Jurassic Park, which is wild because I just assumed it had never been touched until the shorts they were doing in the 80s and 90s. But this is now a package that is operationally available worldwide and gets annual updates like everything else. I believe it's free. Not that I would try it because I just wouldn't know what to do. But those days are long behind me now. I think of like trying to do animation at home. I remember having the lightsaber app to do Force Lightning, and it was frame by frame, and it was the most tedious app I'd ever done in my life. This is year 10 George with a Mac, thinking he's like a professional when they're not. Far from it. But any thoughts on any of them before we head into the story, which I think is more important?
Not really, other than the fact that I am always jealous of American aquariums because it does feel like a full-blown. I don't want to say park, like we've just said, but like it does feel like a fully fledged, full thought out thing, whereas the ones in Britain are mostly just it's a building with some fish in it.
Yeah, like they're like, we want to have an aquarium, we'll build one, we'll make it look like extraordinary, we'll have everything you could think of and more. Whereas here it's like, what can we squeeze into this building and this rental unit? Is it Merlin Entertainment? They're like they're the devil.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, sly bastards. Right though, sorry. Let's talk some story. Finding Dory. The title is incorrect. I'm not going to pin the title. You can't lose any. Do you remind of yesterday? Taken 2. I was like, you can't have your daughter taken again, can you? I always understood, right? Finding Dory actually makes a little bit of sense as a title because you can't call it Nemo 2. You have to keep finding in there. Finding Marvin just sounds terrible. And Dory, to be fair, as much as I've moaned and I disliked the character previously, she is the most marketed character from the film.
Yeah.
Like, the clownfish are there, but Dory is like, and also contextually, the Ellen show was fucking gigantic in the early 10s as well, wasn't it? Like, when it was at its like peak popularity, it kind of made sense as to why they run with her in the lead. The story itself, we're not really looking for Dory, but we're finding Dory's parents on the adventure to find her family. I'll say this. Sorry,
I was just going to say it. I was thinking about the title just as you were saying it, and it's like, I suppose there's multiple angles you can look at the Finding Dory aspect from, like her parents, quite literally with Nemo and Marlin, and so there are multiple aspects of trying to find her. So anyway, that was the only thing I was going to add.
No, that's absolutely fair. I think where I sit with it, and this is not necessarily make or break for me, but this will be a big point. Contextually, the time I've said to you on Nemo, I've tried to watch Nemo again. I love Nemo as a film, but I've never liked Dory as a character ever. So for me, that was like, oh, there's that one unbearable character, and I can't. It's like Cars 2, mate is the lead. Dory is the lead in this film.
Yeah,
I can put up with her in the lead, unlike Mata. I can put up with it. I don't enjoy her as a character, but I can put up with it. I didn't mind the idea of exploring her background. Where the film not necessarily loses me, but where I have sort of a little agreement to the story is, I love Solo, a Star Wars story. I don't think it's underrated. I don't think it's. I think the film is fine. It's got plenty of issues. Its cardinal sin is, that character Han Solo, yeah? In this 2-hour story, we're going to tell you absolutely everything ever made about this character, where he's from, his love interest, his backgrounds, how he met Jabba the Hutt, because if ends of him going there, how did he meet Lando, how did he get the Millennium Falcon, and icing on the cake, how did he get the name Solo? To me, it's just too much. Could you want a couple of those things? The name is like the worst thing possible. Finding Dory goes to a similar direction where, hey, Dory had a song. This is the origin of the song. Oh, Dory was looking for something. There's how she's looking for something. Oh, she saw a boat. I actually like the scene. There's her seeing the boat. It feels like anything that how she speaks whale. Here's how she's learned to speak whale. It goes down that, for me, unfortunate story detail of, we have to tell you everything ever about the character, and she's not an ambiguous character. I don't need Dory to be ambiguous. She's a bloody fish. But it just feels like you're sort of batting people on the head with, this is what happened.
I thought it was. I completely get where you're coming from, and I do think Solo is probably the best example of like doing it to the point where it's actually kind of ruining the character you're trying to, give context to. But I think it actually kind of works in Dory. I think because there is such a emphasis on her parents and her trying to piece everything back together again mentally, and that being like a massive through point throughout the film. Plus, I think also, I know we said this for Nemo, but I think it's definitely a special for this as well, now having rewatched it, is that the story just feels incredibly tight in terms of that straight from one thing to the next to the next. I personally don't have an issue with all of those explanations, because I think it kind of, from my perspective, because there is such a heavy emphasis on her emotional journey, I think they're kind of warranted. Like, I think it's quite endearing that the song that she had is something that her parents kind of taught her because they knew how forgetful she was, and just little things like that. Whereas in Solo, it's just like, oh, you're telling us this just for the sake of it, and now it's kind of ruined this thing. With this one, there's always that little bit of like narrative or character or emotional context where it just kind of, for me anyway, they don't feel that forced. It just kind of works for the moment, especially when you do get those flashbacks, and it kind of breaks your heart because of how, hopeless her situation is because of her memory. I don't know, it just kind of worked for me, especially on this rewatch. I don't think I even thought about that when I first saw it in 2016, but this rewatch, I was like, oh, that makes sense, and it's also kind of sweet in places.
I do agree with a lot of that. I think
Mm,
nothing's as bad as Solo with it, because you said
yeah.
Solo is just anything, everything possible,
Mm,
and politely dealing with the bigger legacy character in the terms of like history cinema.
yeah.
Um, I kind of get with the Doris. I think for me, it's just there's a bit too much of it, because some of it does work. Like when it brings into the story, I do not ever mind it,
Mm,
and I think that's the key. Like, I know a friend of ours, Ren. Some people say some films are pointless, and he's like, no film has ever been pointless,
yeah.
and I agree with that. I do think sometimes certain studios and certain productions will look at a film not just as a number, but as, right, what can we mine out of this that we haven't done?
Yeah.
What can we continue to do? And I think Disney very much, again, that mid-10s Pixar run is starting to do that a bit more. Like, right, we
Yeah.
need to get to Nemo. And although they waited for Andrew Stanton to have the idea, which I much more appreciate,
Mm,
it does feel like, right, when you can get there, when there's a story, do it and we'll run with you. And
yeah.
it does, I think, play into that a little bit. And one thing I'll
Yeah.
say about the story I find really ballsy, which I really like, is the fact it isn't really set in the sea again. Like, I know
Yeah.
we're there to begin with.
Mm,
I actually think, from memory in that first viewing, it's a great twist that the parents aren't in the sea. Because when you watch the opening,
mm,
you're under the impression that she's from the sea, like she's from
mm,
somewhere.
yeah.
And the fact that actually they were an exhibit in,
Mm,
an open ocean exhibit in the facility.
yeah.
I really like that they almost have to go back to trying to get in captivity to then get back out to the sea. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that works really well. I think
Mm,
the location is perfect for all the different characters you're bringing into that as well. The
yeah.
different areas, you can have a bit more fun with it.
Mm,
And again, it's not, oh, you can't do the ocean again. You can't do the ocean. What would you get in the ocean? You're going to get sharks.
mm,
We've done that. You're going to get fishermen. You sort of done that too. You're going to travel. Yeah, we've done that. Like,
mm,
I know that like the ocean, to me, different conversation is the most terrifying thing
yeah.
there is, purely because we don't know what's like.
Yeah.
Humanity hasn't explored the depths of the ocean. That's what I
No.
mean with that. Like, that scares me.
Yeah.
Um, but to say, okay, we've kind of done a lot of this, so let's take it to, for conversational purposes, not the story. Let's take
Mm,
it to a water park.
yeah.
It's land. It's not a house. You being in a fish tank with a fish that want to escape. It's
Mm,
how can we all benefit from this in story, and I do like that. I
mm,
do think it works better. And when you get to the moment where you get the full flashback of she's been, she
mm,
herself by accident goes into the funnel to kick her into the pipes.
yeah.
You kind of feel sorry for her. And I will say, talking a little bit about characters too, baby Dory is like one of the cutest little things I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
it's mad because, and I'll say this, if this came out today, people would bash it, because since Grogu, I feel like baby insert character has
Mm,
become I'm not saying a thing because of Grogu. I need to sort of find the right
yeah.
words to say it, but I feel like it's become a beating stick. Is it
Mm,
not me saying really getting too much of it? People are now going at productions that do that,
yeah.
even though theoretically babies have been around for history. It just like in the Mandalorian trailer for the film, there's they're calling him Baby Greedo because it's a
Yeah.
baby Redarian. I was like, I kind of get it. It looks cute, but
Mm,
people don't like that apparently, and I just find it weird. But Baby Dory, I loved in this. I don't know if it's
mm,
the round eyes. Unfortunately, she then does turn into Ellen.
Yeah.
Uh, one thing I do want to touch on, I don't know
Mm.
if you remember this, when we did the Finding Nemo discussion,
Mm.
one of the original concepts was the flashback of the opening scene was originally going to be throughout the entire film, and the
Oh
end of the
yeah.
film would tell you all what happens at the
Mm.
start, which
Yeah.
we both at the time would be a terrible idea.
Mm.
This film does that with the
Mm.
flashbacks, but I
Mm.
actually think it works. It's strongest in this, that you're piecing the puzzle with that character.
Yeah. I think it works better here because with Nemo, you need that initial context straight out the gate to set
Yeah.
the emotional weight of the film, like from that point onwards. Otherwise, it's just not gonna it's not gonna work as much. Whereas this, not to compare a Pixar film to Memento, but
I
it's
know I
going
saw this meme.
yeah, it's going for that same sort of thing where it's like it's not like we're trying to put you in Dory's shoes, but the perspective is from quite literally an unreliable, character. So we're going to show you the bits only when Dory is remembering them. So you're kind of at the same pace as her. And even when you're like having the moments with Nemo and Marlin, they kind of do the right thing and keep it stuck to them. That it doesn't abruptly cut to a flashback. We only see those flashbacks sporadically when Dory gets them. So we are quite literally following it at her pace, which again kind of makes you feel even more sympathetic and kind of feel sorry for how hopeless she really is at points in this film. Because there were a couple points, like you said, where she's stuck in the pipe, and I don't know, it just felt really I didn't originally find this film that emotional, but like I did get choked up a couple points because of just how hopeless her situation is, and we know as the audience, it's like, yeah, she's kind of hopeless in this moment, and I don't really know how she's going to get out of it.
I think as well the structure of the film to end up with the parents having to
Mm,
go out to find her. I
yeah,
think that actually works a lot better. They didn't just sit there for
mm,
10, 15, I don't know however long it is with Baby Fish, but they just sit there waiting for her to come back. They went out to find her and couldn't, and
yeah,
resorted to hoping themselves. And I
yeah,
think the film does a great little thing at the end where it builds up to this reveal of them to be there and they're not.
mm,
Um, I think that works to its credit much better. I'm glad you brought Memento. I saw a really funny letterbox review. So I don't normally pull out the funny ones. But it
yeah.
was like Dory's the third best. Oh god, I think it was the third best amnesic protagonist after um, Guy Pearce and Jason Bourne. But uh, someone's probably offended. Sorry, that's not my intention. Again, when people do funny reviews on Letterboxd, they're actually funny. I
Yeah.
don't go out to find them. I just tend to hover on like what's the top 2 or 3.
Mm,
And if there's a paragraph, I won't read it because I don't read full Letterboxd reviews. I never do that.
mm,
But the one-liners are great when they're great. Um,
yeah.
I mean, we've talked about the story. Let's talk about a couple of characters. We spoke about Dory a lot. I mean, we spoke about Ed DeGeneres a lot as well. I still maintain what I said in the email. I struggle with this character.
Mm,
And it's not me being disrespectful. I appreciate them putting her as the lead.
mm,
It is her film. I think when you look at Finding Nemo, you've got sort of Nemo and his dad is 2 split stories as the 2 leads. As Dory's like the supporting character, but enough to sort of be a
yeah.
lead with them in a really weird term. Whereas
Mm,
this time round, Nemo and his dad, they feel far more secondary than how I was saying that it's like 2 storylines are split with the
yeah.
first film. This one, although you've got Nemo and his dad on the way to try and get to Dory, doesn't
Mm,
feel at any point like they're in a real plot. Not in a,
no.
I don't know how the right way to say it. It doesn't feel as balanced, but it's not the intention because Dory's the lead of
Yeah.
this film, and I don't mind Dory as the lead of the film because
Mm,
Nemo's kind of had his story.
yeah.
I will say this: I still also hate the character of Marlin. I know it's
Mm,
voiced by Albert Brooks. Um, he's still detestable. I
mm,
know it's only 1 year later, but I
mm,
do like the fact that Nemo obviously still doesn't not distrust his dad, but
mm,
when Marvin's at fault, like the first film, for some of those bigger moments,
mm.
the film's aware of that, and it doesn't play it for laughs, doesn't play it for punches. It's like part of development.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, I say like it very clearly is this in the film, but it's very much a case of like Marlin might still be stubborn, but Nemo has definitely grown, and I feel like there are
Yeah,
definitely points throughout the film where Nemo nudging his dad to do the right thing and look for Dory and things like that just then prove to Marlin just like, oh, hang on a minute, my son is more wiser, is more older, and then I think there's even points in the film where they both acknowledge they went through a lot in the last film, both of them equally, and I feel like I do get what you mean in the sense that Marlin can feel a bit much in the first film, but this one I feel like he's toned down to the level where like yeah he's still him, but
yeah.
there's obviously been that character growth, obviously from watching the first one, um, and they've done a good job to kind of retain that whilst not losing the character that we kind of know from the first one.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, and I
Mm.
think sort of in line with them, what the first film did so beautifully, which we spoke about a lot, is the incredible like characters you meet on the way on the journey.
Yeah.
Um, Now exploring the ocean, I think it gives you that a little bit more than where we go with this.
Mm.
But I've sort of put Hank as his own section, voiced by Ed O'Neill.
Mm.
Most people will be familiar with him from Modern Family. We've also got
Mm.
Ty Burrell just to add another Modern Family character in there. I love Hank in this the Octopus. I remember
Mm.
one thing I do remember at the time, everyone was talking about Hank the Octopus. I think he's a great addition to it. It's great that we got to spend a bit of time with, I don't want to say other types of fish, but
Mm.
we didn't. Oh, look, here's the three sharks again. Oh,
Mm.
look, here's the, I don't know what the swarm's called, voiced by John Ratzenberger, but
Mm.
it's kind of like, hey, there's loads of types of fish. What else can we do with them? We're not going to use pelicans this time. We'll have a pigeon. I like that it
Yeah.
has a bit more variety, but
Mm.
I really liked Hank in this. I think he's actually got a really great character arc, and the
Yeah.
whole "you've got three hearts" thing is like
Yeah.
quite mean. He's clearly been through a lot and has a very
Mm.
negative perception of the world. So I
Mm.
really like that he ends up finding his own family by the end of it too, and I just think he's given his own little section too.
Yeah, I think I also do a wise because I did see a letterbox review which actually kind of I think the point of it was like I don't quite like all the callbacks to Finding Nemo within the first like 10 to 15 minutes. And now rewatching this I'm like actually they're not that bad. Like
Yeah.
obviously you've got the school, you've got the turtles and that's kind of all they need and then it just carries on with its own thing. And if you're going to bring any of those characters back from the first film, those ones make the most sense because the school is in their community anyway, and the turtles just so happen to go all over the world because of the stream. It just makes sense. So I'm glad they kept it restricted just to that first chunk of the film, and then, as you know, after a certain point, they just kind of keep introducing new characters and they keep it fresh. I like the fact they didn't hold on that like nostalgia thing. Like I can see that if this was made now, they would really like mine those older characters.
The sharks would be in it, wouldn't it? The
Yeah,
sharks would be in it,
sharks would
100%.
be in there. They would bring back the fish tank lot.
Gil,
They would find ways to just bring all these characters back when they really don't need to. But in this one, they subvert that, and I didn't really think about it when I was watching it to begin with, but then subconsciously I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of refreshing. I think now knowing what they would probably do, it is quite
yeah.
refreshing.
I would say I'm very torn on this. Is Gil in the credit scene, or is it cut but just the deleted scenes online?
I don't
Like,
know
I'm not.
because his name shows up on Letterboxd. Like the whole
This
fish tank crew
the
show up on Letterboxd in the
I
cast.
know this. I know the scene of them in the algae, and I just never know. Is it? Because sometimes there are deleted scenes which end up publicly available, and I don't know if
Mm,
it's that. 'Cause I remember at the time William Dafoe's like, "Yeah, we're in it," and I'm sort of glad they're not in the core of it. As much as I love
mm,
that group, that
mm,
group functioned so well because they wanted to,
mm.
you know, get
Yeah,
out of the fish tank. They
yeah,
didn't really need to stick around.
no,
But that would have been an easy option.
mm,
I will have to shout out Sigourney Weaver in this, the
yeah.
weirdest cameo in cinema history.
I love
Sigourney
her.
Weaver is voicing herself as a tour
Yeah,
guide. Again, going off that original concept that clearly would have been a water park made more sense. But I
Yeah.
love the whole listen to Sigourney Weaver. It's
Mm.
very Zoolander esque,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's an incredible reference to Wall-E, also
Mm.
done by Andrew Stanton, because
Mm.
Sigourney Weaver is also the voice in that too.
Mm.
Nice cameo.
Yeah.
Not just to chuck it under the camera rug, but it's wild that they got her for it. She probably had fun,
Mm.
probably did an hour of work or
Mm.
something, but it's a bit,
Mm.
it's quite memorable, and I think it worked. Sorry, Karen.
I was going to say, it's one of those things where, like, again, if it was made now, people would be theorizing, like, oh, what character is she going to play? And the fact that she's just a tannoy voice of herself is kind of funny. I think that's one thing I loved when I first saw it, and now rewatching it, I was like, oh yeah, she's just voice, she's just narrating the water park. I love that.
And I loved Idris Elba as well.
Oh yeah,
Really weird role to play as Sea Lion. I think there was one draft where the Sea Lions were gonna be villains, but they dropped that. I just quite like the fact that there's a
They're just
rock
there.
and they sit on it. They're there, yeah, and I love it. Just, I mean, that year, what did I read online? He had a voice in Finding Nemo. No, ignore. He had a voice in the Jungle Book that year. He had a voice in Finding Dory that year, and he's also in Zootropolis.
Yeah,
Whichever way around they want to call it. Three animated Disney films, 3 animals he played.
yeah.
Good year for him in the voice booth.
Yeah.
Probably one day at work.
And to be honest, this one he just has to shout Gerald a lot.
Yeah. What do they shout us on? It's like the whole, again, if they, they do bring back the mine, but at the end, but I quite like the fact theirs is off on the rock.
Yeah,
I think it's funny.
Yeah,
again, there's things that do work for me.
Yeah.
I mean, anything you want to say on characters before we jump into score?
No, other than the fact that I didn't realise Dory's dad was voiced by Eugene Levy and Diane Keaton's the mum. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, I, for some reason, spent the last 10 years thinking Bob Odenkirk voiced his dad. I don't know why. Bob Odenkirk's not even bold. I mean, the fact there's a bold fish, I know they're all talking about bold Woody now. That logistically doesn't work, because unless the film opens with a child like rubbing his head against a tree, I'm really at a loss as to why Woody's bold, other than for a joke at people in their 30s with bad hairlines. But the bold fish dad is one of the most ingenious designs I think I've ever seen in an animated film. Like, to convincingly have yourself as bold, but you're a fish.
Yeah.
It's commendable.
It is good. It's definitely ballsy.
I was not going to say ballsy, I meant to say baldy. Anyway, sorry, people get offended.
I was debating it.
I saw something in the news recently. Someone sued someone for calling them bald. I was like, Christ almighty. If you're that upset, just go to Turkey. Right. Score. Thomas Newman returns. Okay, this has thrown me. This has really thrown me. This is Thomas Newman's third Pixar film after Finding Nemo and Wall-E.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Mandela effect we spoke before we come on. I'm not getting it mixed up with his cousin or uncle Randy Newman, who's done a lot. For some reason, I thought Thomas Newman has like a Gacino and had done like 6 or 7. Turns out that is not the case. He's done 4 in grand total, like a whole career. I thought maybe he's done like 3 Pixar films after this. No, he just did 1 after. I'm not saying scoring 4 films is bad out of a studio of 29. I just, for some reason, thought he'd done a lot more. I don't, if I'm honest, have a lot to say on the score. I do think, retrospectively, in between each episode recording, I'm listening to the soundtracks. I'm building like a little playlist. We're 17 films in now. Finding Nemo, I'm quite comfortable at this point in time, say is the best score of the Pixar film so far. It's not detracting from the songs from Randy Newman. Overall score, soundtrack, Finding Nemo is head and shoulders above everything, which is wild because you've got legendary scores such as Up. Incredibles is a phenomenal one. Toy Story, as I mentioned. I mean, Coco's obviously going to be a big one when we get to that, but I'm gobsmacked at that. Not in a disrespectful way. It's a really good soundtrack, but Dory, there's not as much you can do with this in a really polite term. Because you're sort of using off what's come before.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. to be honest, when the film started and you get that initial flashback and then the title appears,
Yeah,
and it's the same, well, it's similar slash pretty much identical, the same opening tune that you used for Finding Nemo. There was a part of me where I'm like, okay, I know it's been 10 years since I've seen this, but this isn't just going to be like the exact same score rehashed. And to be honest, because I was so focused on the characters and the story on the rewatch, the soundtrack just kind of
yeah,
didn't
disappears.
compared to the first one, where I think you and me were both on the same page, where like it kind of does hit you around the face, and it's like, oh wow, this is a really good score, and it elevates some of those moments that maybe didn't work as well as if it didn't have the score. This one is like, yes, you've got the iconic theme at the start and the end of the film. Everything else just kind of, I didn't even really pay much attention to the score, which is a shame considering how much I did in the first one. That might be because some of it's rehashed and some of it just isn't as memorable. And that's not to say Thomas Newman isn't bad. Like you said, he's a very good composer. But I don't know. I'm similar to you. I don't really have much to say about it. Although that being said, and again, this isn't anything against him. Thomas Newman is one of those composers where if you see a couple of films he's done, certain things do pop up,
Yeah,
even if it's like different genres or anything. Certain things do recur in his films. Like for example, funnily enough, this is sort of related. Andrew Stanton's got a new film out called In the Blink of an Eye. Thomas Newman's done the score for it. There are a couple of bits where I'm like, this is a bit Finding Nemo-ish, and then his name popped up in the credits, and I'm like, oh, who'd have thunk it? Another Andrew Stanton project that's got Thomas Newman attached. Um, but yeah, that's nothing against him as a composer. He's one of my favorites, but it's just something to. I think. I mean, my mum has it with John Williams all the time. Is that like there's bits in Indiana Jones that sound almost identical to Star Wars bits and vice versa. So you're going to get that with any composer. But I don't know what point I'm trying to make here, but that's just something I'm kind of saying. The fact that this does sound similar.
it, I mean, I've not watched his new film. I was excited for it when I saw Andrew Stanton's going to do a live action film,
Hmm.
and I think did it premiere at Sundance?
It premiered
And
at Sundance and then just kind of got dumped on Disney
yeah, it
Plus.
was like it's coming to Hulu on February the 27th.
Yeah,
Ah, okay.
I
Um,
I knew it was a bad sign when the Friday it came out. I couldn't find it, so I had to search for it. And the fact that it's a new release and you have to search for it,
yeah,
kind of not not a good sign.
yeah. It's there's no one, isn't there? You've got everything going on with Reagan as well, Brad Bird at the moment.
Yeah.
I do want the film to be good.
Mm,
But in the big fight, I did see the trailer, and I just, yeah, when I saw all the Neanderthal stuff, I was just
mm,
sort of there like, oh yeah, this ain't gonna be for me. This looks like if Night at the Museum had a bad budget. That's what they'd, in Night at the Museum, like in the first one when they're all
yeah.
in the shelves. I'm like, it looked like a cheaper version of them, and
Mm.
they're the joke in the film, the
The
comedy family film.
yeah, the
Um,
mini side review before we talk about Dory, but like the best way to sum it up is like a really boring Cloud Atlas. Like it's doing the same thing as Cloud Atlas, but like it's just people talking for an hour and a half, and that's kind of it. Nothing really happens.
yeah, I'll be avoiding it. That won't make my let's binge it in July catching up list, unfortunately. Streaming films rarely do. That being said, let's talk about the latest Finding Dory
Yeah.
because this also surprised me today. This was the fourth Pixar film not to be nominated for a singular Oscar. I was gobsmacked. Do you want me to be totally honest as to why? And I'm not against
Mm.
this, by the way. Um, so you know about the famous Oscar streak where for about 10, 15 years, every single year,
Yeah.
the Disney slash Pixar film would win. It was
Mm.
basically on rotation through 15 years.
Yeah.
Um, so I just assumed it's Finding Dory. It will get nominated, which is kind of how the Oscars did it.
Mm.
This didn't. if anyone's curious as to the five that were, The
Mm.
Red Turtle, My Life as a Zucchini, Moana, Kubo and the Two Strings, Zootopia.
I mean,
Now, I've
they.
only seen two of them, and I know that the one everyone wanted to win was Kubo, and it didn't win.
Mm.
And I remember there's a bit of outroar at that. But yeah, I mean, I can't sit here and say Dory got robbed of anything, so I'm not going to moan at all. But it is interesting that
Mm.
I think at this point you're starting to see the accolade side of Pixar, which was always so
Mm.
strong, is willowing ever so slightly. But
Mm.
popularity wise, the film went and grossed $1,029,000,000 off a $200 million budget. It was the third highest grossing film of 2016. In
Mm.
first place was Civil War, second place was Rogue One, third place was Finding Dory, fourth place was Zootopia, fifth place was The Jungle Book. Disney rounded out the top five. Now, I know not everyone likes talking box office, but
Mm.
it's what we were saying earlier that in the mid tens into the late tens, you are having a Disney, like, they dominated the entire film industry.
Yeah.
And whilst they are still dominant forces now, they are not at that of 10 years ago now. Like
Yeah.
every year, the top 3 or 4 films of the year financially will be Disney films. That's dead now. Even though last year they did, have Avatar and Zootropolis and Lilo and Stitch to have the top 3, but
Yeah.
that, Marvel films can't bank cash anymore.
No.
Reports are saying that Lucasfilm is very nervous about The Mandalorian, which is quite worrying to hear 2 months out because
Mm.
they botched the Super Bowl trailer. It's a very interesting time. It's a very different time now because, kind of what I said pre-COVID, right? Everyone just went to the cinema. That was
Yeah.
genuinely it. Everyone just went. Now, not everyone wants to go, and it's
Mm.
frustrating, and we understand. And the studios, as in like the industry's issue is, you now need to get people to go to the cinema because they are happy to wait because you programmed them during COVID that it's okay. You don't have to go to the cinema anymore, and then they will realize, shit, we need to make money, so they need to go to the
Mm.
cinema after all.
Mm.
Good job, Bob Chapek. I will give Warner Brothers credit. They are starting to get back on track, and now they're getting sold, so that's pointless. Before we talk favourite scenes, any thoughts on the box office side of it?
Yeah, I think this goes back to what we were saying at the start. Considering Zootropolis has got the more impact in the years since it came out, I'm very surprised to see that Dory overtook this, only by a little bit. But apart from that, that's the only thing that really stood out to me. The Oscars thing. Now that you read the other nominations out, the only one I haven't seen is My Life as a Zucchini. But any of those other ones, they're all really strong animated films. So I think if you'd taken any of them out and put Dory in, that's still a strong lineup. So I don't think I know what I mean when I say this. It's not thoroughly
Yeah,
missed in that category because because the other nominees were so strong and they're all really bloody good animated films. But at the same time, if it was added, that's still a very strong category.
yeah, no, that's very fair. I'm with you on that. And kind of where we go, this could get weird. Favorite scenes. I'll jump in first.
Yeah.
Favorite scenes is not difficult with this because there's a lot of things I like, but very
Mm.
few really jump out. Something I think I might know what you're going to go, so I'm going to go either way. I love the scene in I don't know what you call it the feeling room, the touch room when
Oh, the
the kids
poking
come in.
pool. Yeah.
Oh my god! Do you know what it reminds me of in A Bug's Life when it's raining at the end
Yeah.
and the grasshoppers are in? They've got like helicopter sound effects, World War II
Mm.
bombs going off. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, this is really inventive. Like the kids just having fun, like we
Mm.
probably did that age with those sorts of things. And
Mm.
all these fish are like screaming. Okay, it's a little bit similar to Toy Story 3 with the playtime,
Yeah.
but just again, it's that scale. You've got a sense of
Mm.
scale. This is a film about fish.
Mm.
Have a bit of fun, having a bit of imagination, and that is the scene where we get that for the first time in a while. And
Yeah.
you're not going to get that chance to do that often either. But I
No.
really liked that little sequence.
Yeah. It reminded me a little bit of like in the first film where the fish in the fish tank treat the plastic volcano as like an actual volcano, and just little
Yeah.
stylish, like lifestyle things like that, where like they take this very mundane thing as like life or death. And yeah, I did, to be honest, I was very close to picking that scene, the poking Paul or whatever it's called. But I'm leaning towards either the. I've got two in my head. I'm either leaning towards the final like car chase, specifically the bit where they go over the top of the cliff, and it's set to "What a Beautiful World" by Louis Armstrong, or the scene where she finally reunites with her parents because it feels like genuinely lovely, and it um, and but doesn't. I know what I mean. Like it's not too emotional. It just feels like very cathartic, I guess, because you followed her and the stress that she's gone through, and the fact that the answer was right in front of her the whole time is just like so not obvious. Like when I say obvious, I don't mean it in like a condescending, like oh, it's obvious way. It seems really obvious in like a really loving and genuine
Yeah,
way, if that makes sense. Yeah,
it's a very real reunion type thing that
yeah,
worked.
yeah. It feels
Um,
justified.
yeah, justified. That's the right word for it.
Mm,
And it's the core. If that scene doesn't work, the film doesn't work.
mm,
And I think scenes like that are underestimated at times. It's the
mm,
emotional crux of the film of a 97-minute runtime.
mm.
You get it wrong, you've wasted everybody else's time before you.
Yeah.
And it's a very delicate thing to get right, and I think they do. And Pixar do that more often than not.
Mm,
And kind of heading into my final thoughts on the film, it's been a weird one because I've been quite maybe a little bit negative at times on this, and maybe been positive as well. There's some things I really like. There's some
mm,
things I don't care for, or I'm not going to lie, I've already forgotten about within 24 hours. But there's a bit of an imagination. It's still got some really interesting ideas.
mm,
And for a character I've got no time for, I think the film does a good job of telling her story with her family.
mm,
Um, as we spoke about, I love the supporting characters, as in like the new characters, the new fish, the new things. It does those bits well. But overall, for me, it's not a horrible thing to say. It's a mid tier Pixar film. You know,
mm,
it's to me one of the best animation studios ever made. Who
mm,
released unbelievable 5-star banger after banger after banger for so long. I
mm,
think people scorn upon the ones that aren't on their level, but
mm.
you're never gonna just have that. No studio has ever made 30 films, right,
Yeah.
and put out 30 unbelievable industry-defining films.
No.
It's not possible. And at this point in time, the established brand, the development technology, it's their
Mm,
17th film. It's not going to be a level of the other ones. Not saying it can't be because
mm.
they reached those highs 2 films ago of Inside Out.
Yeah.
But yeah, a belated sequel to a classic film, I think it's fine. I don't think
Yeah.
that's a bad thing. I think it's fine.
Yeah. I considering how this could have gone, and again, I know I've said this a couple times, how they probably would have approached something like this now. This is probably
Yeah,
the best case scenario we're gonna get, especially for a Finding Nemo, because Finding Nemo works perfectly fine on its own and doesn't necessarily need a sequel. But the fact that, like you said, Andrew Stanton didn't do this, or they didn't go with his thing until he had a proper idea in place. And I like the fact that they gave him the proper time to think of something that actually feels like it warrants its own film. Um, and this definitely does feel like that. It feels justified, it feels warranted, and it doesn't feel unlike some other, not necessarily Pixar, but other like Disney sequels where it feels like we're just doing it for the sake of money. This one proves you wrong and actually feels like it exists because they had a story to tell. It exists because there is a reason for it. I'm personally though I do sit similarly to you. It is. I do like it. I do think it is good, but I think it just if we were putting it into brackets like top tier, mid
yeah,
tier, and low tier, it sits probably just at the top of the mid tier. Like it is good, and if it wasn't for those like all time greats filling up the top spot, it would fit into that top spot. But because you have all those greats, it just sits at the very like top of the mid tier for me. It's still good. I would still recommend it for fans of the original, but again, like you said, they're about 30 films in at this point. It's got to sit somewhere.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I think as in spit. I mean, we've gone over an hour. It's longer than I thought it would be, and I think it has that. It's got a legacy set about to an extent, and no doubt this would be popular with kids.
Yeah.
No doubt in that at all. Like, obviously, she'll be too young. I've got a little niece on the way. She might be born by the time this video comes out. In a few years, they'll be watching Disney films, and that will work fine. And I think for the generation that don't need to wait between Nemo, I don't think you had to wait like Incredibles 2 people waited. Like, that was known. People joked about that wait. Whereas Dory was like, oh, we're doing this. And I think they'll back-to-back work for a lot of people. Probably a lot of entertainment to have from that. And it's kind of been an interesting thing. Sorry.
I was going to say, considering this was a sequel no one really asked for, I think this is probably like,
Ellen did.
I said this a minute ago. This is the best case scenario we're going to get.
Yeah, she joked that they were doing a Toy Story 16. It's time for a second Nemo film. I was just sat there like, shut up. You're not just like, I'd take 16 Toy Story films. That's the difference. Not 16 Nemo films. At one point, you're going to get eaten. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's been interesting. I'm just going to be a lot better discussion than next week. I'm saying that, although I have brought in a super fan. So next week, you want to look at the screen now. We're going to be doing Cars 3 to get things going. Then we've got Coco, followed by The Incredibles 2, followed by Toy Story 4. As I said, we're in sequel mania at this point in time. I don't know if this will. I don't think we've. I like these little graphics of the coming up, but I don't think there's ever been a time where there's 4 sequels in a row. So we're kind of lucky to an extent. There's always been original films which Pixar pride themselves on, but we are, as we know, the 2010s became the sequel time, the money time, and it's in the history of Pixar that the studio's third ever film was a sequel. A reliance on them, certainly a discussion to have, but they are necessary. And I think my issue with sequels, this is a Pixar sequels at least, use the money you make off those big hitters and go make original films, which they did do in the early 20s. That sounds so weird, not the 1920s, the 2020s, the COVID era. And unfortunately, those films didn't get the opportunity to get their chance, which we'll talk about over the coming months. But Aaron, this has been a delight to talk this film with you. Thank you so much for coming on. What are you up to at the moment? Because you are very busy, for people that don't know that.
I've been focusing a lot more on my writing stuff, so I've been doing a lot of writing for Get Your Comic Con, comic reviews, film reviews. Been very busy doing that, but I am slowly getting back into doing YouTube stuff. I posted a review for Waste Man. When was it? A week ago, I think. So gradually, I want to get back into the swing of things and have like a nice balance of that. So that's currently what I'm doing at the moment, trying to find a balance.
Very, very well. Thanks so much for jumping on. Everybody, please follow Aaron on both of those platforms. We will have you on another episode of the series. I know that for sure. So it's been exciting to have you on for this. Everybody watching here, hope you've enjoyed it. Please do comment your thoughts on Finding Dory. Have we been harsh? Have we not? Are you a big fan of it? Do you want a third film? If you do, tell us who they'll be finding for in that one. But that is me rounding up. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you then.